Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. We are live, and this is, for those of you who know, this is video 11 of my 100 days of live video series. And today I'm actually going to kickstart a 4-part series within the 100 days of live video. So for the next 4 days, we're going to talk about letting go. And these are things to let go of for a prosperous, loving, exciting, fulfilling 2017. So we're talking about letting go. Now, why do we have to let go of stuff? Because we want to let go of the things that are no longer working so that you can move forward into the new year with a clean slate and a fresh start. So as good as it is to look at goals and what you want to achieve in 2017, I think it's also really important we look at what do we have to let go of? Like, what do you have to let go of to allow these things into your life? And as you're signing in, please say hello below, comment as we're talking about this. Feel free to jump in. All right, so letting go. So the first thing, I'm just going to get comfortable here. The first thing that I really think that we ought to let go of, and this is what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing is negative emotions. Letting go of your negative emotions. And tomorrow we're going to talk about letting go of limiting beliefs and how those impact you. And the third one we're going to talk about is letting go of relationships that no longer serve in your life. And the fourth one, well, the fourth one's a surprise, so you'll have to stay with me. So, negative emotions, what are they? Well, when we talk about our negative emotions, we're talking about emotions such as anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, shame. The emotions that in NLP we call them unresourceful states. So it's a state that you're in that's not resourceful for you. It's limiting you. And why do we let go of them? Well, we're going to get there. We're going to talk about why we let them go. Now, negative emotions are not bad. So it's important, and that's why we call them negative emotions. We have negative emotions, we have positive emotions, but we don't want to call them bad. And here's why. Because they have a purpose. Your negative emotions have a purpose. Now, I used to think that I was a slave to how I was feeling. That if something upset me or made me angry, I was a slave to that. That I would get angry, that there was no choice in the matter, that I had no choice but how I was feeling about it. And through the process I've gone through and the learning I've gone through, I've learned that I have a choice in how I'm feeling at any given moment and how I react to things. So we let go of our negative emotions, and here's why. So let's start with anger. Actually, no, before we get into talking about the specific ones, let's talk about what we do with negative emotions. So negative emotions, when we don't let them go, when we don't release them, we store them in our bodies. Now, you have neurotransmitters that bathe every cell in your body. So the moment you have a thought, the instant you think of something, it's transmitted to every cell in your body. So negative emotions get into every cell of your body. Now, the problem with that is that if we don't release it, negative emotions can become trapped in the body. And so it's like energy being trapped in the body. So imagine for a moment, just play with me. Imagine that somewhere in here, in your arm, let's say you trap anger in the body. You're storing anger here. Let's just play with that for a moment. And so what that does at the physiological level is when you're storing an emotion, a negative emotion, say here, the muscle tightens. So the muscle gets really, really tight. And when a muscle tightens and tightens and tightens, it restricts the blood flow. And now all of a sudden, maybe you notice that, oh, my elbow's hurting, right? And I get this like clicky, painful thing in my elbow. So I go to the doctor and I say, hey, my elbow's hurting. And they say, oh, you have tennis elbow. Now, I'm not a tennis player. There's no reason for me to have tennis elbow, but that's what it'd be diagnosed as. And then I'd have this chronic condition that I'd go to the doctor for. Oh, hey, Jamie, thanks for joining me. I'd have this condition that I go to the doctor for. I'd go for physio, I'd go for massage, and it would get better, and then it would get worse again. And then we have this thing to deal with until that emotion's released. Excuse me. And when that negative emotion's released, the blood flow can return to the muscle relaxes, and the body can heal itself. So that's one example of how we store negative emotions in the body. Now imagine, hey Jamie, now imagine that any any part of your body, if you're carrying negative emotions, what that could be doing, how that could be wreaking havoc on your cells, on your muscles, on your body. Now, there's a doctor I believe he's in New York, Dr. Sarno. Now, he was a back surgeon, and Dr. Sarno did 20 years of back surgeries on people with chronic back pain. And after 20 years of this, he decided that he wanted to find out how his past patients were doing. So he contacted all his old patients and he asked them how they were doing. And every single one of them still had back pain. Every single one still had back pain. So imagine, this doctor spent 20 years of his life doing surgery on people to relieve them of their chronic pain, and he finds out that they all still have back pain. Now, some people would have a midlife crisis there, and they would completely throw in the towel and walk away from everything. But not Dr. Sarno. He was curious. He got really curious, and so he started investigating. Why? Why do these people still have this chronic back pain after they've had the surgery that was supposed to fix them? So he did some research, and what he found over time was that any chronic pain beyond 6 to 8 weeks is negative emotions. So when he helped his patients release the negative emotions, the back pain went away. Then they were cured. Or not cured, rather, but they healed. The body was able to heal itself. So I'm telling you this because this is what negative emotions can do in the body. This is one way that negative emotions affect the body, and this is why we have to let them go. Yeah, it's pretty surprising. So this is one of the reasons why we need to let go of our negative emotions and not hold on to them. And when we're talking about letting go of negative emotions, I'm not saying that you'll never feel these feelings again. It's about letting go of the past negative emotions that we carry. So in the present, you might still feel anger, sadness, hurt, guilt, any of those feelings. You could feel them in the moment, but all that past stuff gets cleared away. Hey Barb, thanks for coming on. So, and we do this, and we find that when we do this, the body can heal itself of all kinds of conditions and chronic pain. So this is something that I think is worthwhile getting rid of to go into the new year. So let's talk about how each negative emotion affects the body. So anger, let's start with anger. Anger typically, not always, but typically gets stored in the heart chakra area. And when we store anger here, well, you can imagine what that can do to your body, right? Imagine what that can feel like. So often people who have had heart attacks are carrying a lot of anger, a lot of resentment inside of them. We also tend to hold anger in the large intestine, in the colon. So a lot of times when people have chronic intestinal issues, they're holding on to an unexpressed anger. And then they wonder why they have all these digestive issues. Now that was my case. I used to have ulcerative colitis. And when I released anger, all the past anger, my body was able to heal itself from the colitis. I've also worked with clients who they've carried a lot of anger around their heart area. And when they released the anger, they felt like a weight was lifted off their chest that they've been carrying. Hey Jocelyn, thanks for coming on. I'm just going to read Barb's comment here. Anger also comes up when the liver is compromised. Absolutely. We can store negative emotions everywhere. And these are the most common places that we hold anger in the body. So I think it's a good thing to let go of. Now the next one is fear. Let's talk about where we hold fear. Fear, again, often gets held in the upper part of the body. A lot of times in the chest area. Again, a lot of times in the lungs. We also hold fear. Women tend to hold fear as well around the hips. We hold a lot of fear there. So we can let go of fear. And when we let go of fear, we're letting go of past fear, like past traumas. Guilt. We hold guilt in the body. It cuts off the lower chakras. It cuts off the second chakra. And what that does is impedes any healing from happening above that point in the body. So if a client comes to me, for example, and they have any difficulty healing anything from like the lower abdomen upward in the body, one of the first things we look at is getting rid of guilt, because often it's guilt that's holding in whatever trauma in the body that is. And it's cutting off the energy in the body from healing. So these are some of the ways that negative emotions impact us. These are just a few of them. Now let's talk about anxiety, because a lot of times when we talk about fear, anxiety comes up. So anxiety is a message from your unconscious mind that you're focused on what you don't want. So it's actually a future fear. It's a fear put into the future. Because you can't feel anxious about something that's already happened successfully, right? Like, think about that for a moment. If you feel, or if there was an event in the past, which before it had happened, you were anxious about it. So say there was an event in the past where you had an exam to write, or a performance to give, or a talk to give, and you had a lot of anxiety leading up to it. Well, now that it's completed, you probably don't have that anxiety about that event because now it's in the past. So anxiety is always in the future when we're focused on the outcome we don't want. So we can release anxiety very easily by focusing on what we do want. And it's taking the mind through a process of reprogramming it through NLP to focus the mind on what we do want and to be really clear on the outcome we want. Hey Lisa, thanks for joining. Thanks for jumping in. So these are some of the negative emotions that we want to release from the body so that we can move forward into a clear, clean future. Now, as I mentioned earlier, it doesn't mean that you never feel these things again. You still feel them. Hi, Monica. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for joining us. So you still feel these things in the present, but once we clear away all that past stuff, in the present moment, it means you can react clearly. So what do I mean by that? It means that you don't have that knee-jerk reaction anymore. You know, someone cuts you off in traffic, you don't immediately respond with rage. You can respond calmly, clear-headedly, and you can deal with the situation from a point of choice, of being at cause of your life. Now, how does that sound? Because I think that's a pretty good thing. And I'm getting a thumbs up, so I'm thinking at least one of you agrees with me on that. Oh, Monica, you heard there was free wine being served. Oh, I would love that. I think we should do wine on these videos. We should all have our wine out. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great idea. You're my kind of girl. So these are some of the negative emotions that we want to release, and that's partly why. Now, they do have a purpose. Your negative emotions all have a purpose. So once we clean out all the stuff in the past, and we do this through timeline therapy. That's how I work with my clients, is through timeline therapy. And once we clean out all of that stuff, then it means in the moment, whatever you're feeling has a purpose now. It's not just an event triggering something from the past that you don't like. It's a real, honest reaction. And then you can really trust your gut in those moments that you're responding for a purpose. So anger, for example, anger in the present moment when all the past stuff is gone, when you're responding with anger, it's usually because someone or something is pressing up against your values or pressing up against a personal boundary. And then it's a good thing to be aware of, isn't it? Right? So if someone's pressing up or something is pressing up against your personal values or boundaries, you're going to feel angry. You're going to feel angry about it, and then it's a message from your unconscious mind that something is wrong and you need to pay attention to it. Hey, Stefan, thanks for coming in. Fear. Once we clean away past fears, then you can know with confidence when you feel fear in the moment, it's again a message from your unconscious mind that something isn't right. Something is violating your personal boundaries, and it's something you need to be aware of. That there's maybe something coming up against your safety. Guilt. Guilt in the moment is actually a very constructive feeling. I'm just going to read Monica's comment here. You're really good at these videos and have a great camera presence. Aw, thanks, Monica. That's so nice. Hi, Winona. Thanks for coming in today. So we're just talking about, just for those of you who are just jumping in now to catch up, we're talking about why we want to let go of past negative emotions and what the role of negative emotions is. So in talking about guilt, now guilt, when we hang on to it from the past, it has no purpose. It just makes us feel bad. Hey, but guilt in the present moment If something's happening, you're doing something and you feel guilt about it in the moment, and it's not triggered from a past event, when you feel guilt in the moment, that's a message from your unconscious mind that you are violating your own boundaries or your own values. So you're doing something that's going against yourself. And what's really cool about it is that when you start to recognize this and pay attention, then the moment that you feel guilt, as soon as you can learn what it is you need to learn in that moment, you can release the guilt. I mean, think about this for a moment. Every single one of you, and myself included, have made mistakes. Has feeling guilty about that past mistake ever stopped you from making another mistake? And feel free to comment below, because I'd love to hear your feedback. So think about that for a moment. Has holding on to guilt from a past mistake ever stopped you from making another mistake? I'm going to guess probably not, because I know it hasn't for me. But the second that you learn from it, the second you get the learning of what you needed to know, that you get that learning, you can release the guilt and no longer carry it with you. Yeah, exactly, Jamie. Nope. It doesn't stop it, right? Carrying around guilt the rest of your life does not stop you from making mistakes. Learning from the experience does. Learning what you needed to learn. And I'll tell you a little story about this one. Some of you already know that in my previous career in personal training, I did some fitness competitions. And I violated my own boundaries when it came to nutrition and proper nutrition all over the place. I ate way too few calories and definitely deprived my body of some nutrition. And I took more stimulants than I should have. And I did violate my own boundaries. And so for years, I carried around this guilt about that. But the moment I got the learning from it, what I needed to learn from that experience, the guilt disappeared. So guilt has a place. It has a place in the moment to teach us that, hey, I'm doing something that's violating my own boundaries, and I need to learn something from this experience. So anger is someone else or something else violating your boundaries. Guilt is violating your own. And how about hurt? You know, so many times I work with clients and they don't want to release their hurt feelings. And they don't want to release it because they have this belief that they're somehow punishing the other person, the person they want to blame for the hurt. They're punishing them by hanging on to that hurt. So the truth of it, here's the truth, and this might sound a little harsh, but the truth of it is the person who hurt you knows that they did it, and they don't care. They've gone on with their lives. They probably don't care about it. They've moved on. The only person who suffers from hurt is you. So isn't it better to just let it go? To just let go of hurt and move on from it? Hurt, again, it's a message from the unconscious mind that something isn't right. Hey, Bryn, thanks for coming in. So it's telling you that something isn't right. Yeah, exactly, Jamie. Hanging on only hurts you. So, oh, what is that, Monica? Bwahaha, let's talk about my guilt. Maybe not on this broadcast. Fair enough, but if you want to talk about privately, we absolutely can. So, yeah, we need to let go of these things. We let go of them because the only person who suffers is us. And it's amazing, once you let go of all the stuff from the past, you can respond in the moment with a clear, level head. And you can choose your reactions. And it's no longer this knee-jerk, instant thing. Same thing with, oh man, we can talk about, there's so many negative emotions. We can talk about any of them in this context. But the point of it is that I really want you to let go of your negative emotions this year. Or for going into 2017. And it's not that you're not going to feel things anymore. You don't become a robot from doing this work. You feel things that are appropriate to feel when they're appropriate to feel them. Oh yeah, I was going to tell you about, when we talk about fear. When we talk about fear, a lot of times people think that fear is there to protect them. And it's actually not. What does protect you in the moment is having that clear head and awareness of your surroundings to know what to do next. That's what really protects you. Fear doesn't protect anyone. So we want to let go of these negative emotions. And there's a few ways that I do this. So I do this through timeline therapy and hypnosis as I work with my clients, and then of course with NLP techniques throughout. And my clients work with me in a couple different ways. So either in a one-on-one breakthrough session where we tackle the problem head on and clear out all that stuff in one go, or through a process over the same process but spread out over weeks. And I also do the same work in my Secrets of the Empowered Life workshop, which is a 2-day workshop where people get to experience letting go of all this stuff over a weekend. And oh, what is that, Monica? Hanging on to hurt is like drinking poison while thinking it will kill the person who hurt you. Absolutely. Because that person they've moved on. You're the one who's suffering by hanging on to it. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. So that's how I get rid of negative emotions. That's how I help my clients get rid of them. It's either one-on-one in a breakthrough session, or through one of my coaching packages over a few weeks, or in a 2-day transformational workshop, Secrets of the Empowered Life. And the next Secrets of the Empowered Life will be in Maple Ridge, and it's January 20th and 21st. If you're interested in more, I'll post the link. Once I'm done this video, I'll post the link there. And I'll also post a link if you want to connect with me for a 30-minute consultation about how we can work together to let go of your negative emotions so that you can go into 2017 with a clear, fresh slate. And I'll leave you with this, because I think this is the best part about timeline therapy, is that when it's gone, it's gone. It lasts. It works fast and it lasts. So that's it for today. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined me. As I've mentioned, I'm doing 100 days of live video. And today is the first of a 4-part series. We're going to be focusing on what to let go of so that you can have the best year ever in 2017. Aw, thanks, Stefan. I think you're pretty awesome. Thanks so much, guys. If you have any more comments or questions about this, feel free to post below. I'll be monitoring the conversation. Or you can send me a private message if you want to talk to me in private. Thanks so much. Have a great evening, and I will be back again tomorrow. And please subscribe to the notifications so that you know when I'm online. Thanks so much. Oh, I gotta read this one. Fresh slate and new panties is the best way to go into a new year. I totally agree, Monica. On that note, I'm gonna say goodnight and have a fantastic evening. Bye, guys.